I never thought the people who brought me into this world would be the ones to break me so completely. My name is Elena, and for 5 long years, my own parents looked me in the eyes and called me a thief. Not once, not in a moment of anger, but every single day, until the lie became their truth, and my life became a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. It started small. Little things going missing around the house, cash from Dad's wallet, Mom's gold bracelet, even some old family heirlooms. At first I helped them look. I turned the house upside down with them, worried someone had broken in. But soon the accusations turned toward me. "You're the only one who's always here," Mom would say, her voice cold and sharp. Dad wouldn't even look at me. He'd just shake his head and mutter, "We raised you better than this." I was 28 years old, working 2 jobs, trying to build a life after college. I had dreams of starting my own small business, maybe even moving out and finally breathing on my own. But those dreams slowly died under the weight of their suspicion. Friends stopped coming over. Relatives whispered behind my back. My boyfriend at the time started pulling away, saying the drama at home was too much. I felt so alone, like I was drowning in a sea of doubt that my own family had created. Every holiday, every family dinner, it was the same. "Where's the money, Elena? What did you do with it?" Their words cut deeper than any knife. I cried myself to sleep so many nights, wondering what I had done to deserve this. I offered to take a polygraph test. I begged them to hire a private investigator. But they refused. It was easier for them to believe their daughter was the villain than to face whatever was really happening. I moved out eventually, heartbroken and shattered. But the damage was done. My reputation in our tight-knit community was ruined. Job opportunities slipped away because word traveled fast. I carried the shame like a scar I couldn't hide. And through it all, I still loved them. That's what hurt the most. The love that refused to die even as they destroyed me. But what I didn't know was that the real truth was waiting in the shadows, ready to surface in the most unexpected place. A place where secrets can no longer hide. A hospice room, where my mother lay fading, clinging to her final days. One quiet afternoon, when my father stepped out for coffee, she asked me to record a message for the family. "Just in case," she whispered weakly. I hit record, thinking it would be her final loving words. I had no idea it would end their story, and finally begin to heal mine, amid conflict and betrayal. Those 5 years felt like an eternity of silent war. Every visit home was tense. Mom would watch me like a hawk, her eyes full of disappointment. Dad barely spoke to me anymore. The trust we once shared had evaporated completely. I remember one Christmas when I brought gifts, hoping to mend things. Instead, Mom opened her present and immediately checked the jewelry box nearby, as if I might have stolen something again right then and there. I tried everything to prove my innocence. I showed them my bank statements. I accounted for every penny I spent, but nothing worked. They had convinced themselves, and everyone around them, that I was guilty. Family gatherings became unbearable. Cousins avoided me. Aunts and uncles offered pitying looks. I felt like an outsider in my own family, the black sheep marked with a permanent stain. The emotional toll was crushing. I struggled with anxiety and depression. Nights were the worst, replaying their accusations over and over in my head. "How could you do this to us after everything we've given you?" Dad had shouted once. Those words echoed for years. I questioned my own worth. Was I really capable of something so terrible? Had I somehow done it and blocked it out? The self-doubt nearly destroyed me. Meanwhile, I noticed strange things happening with my parents' finances. They suddenly had new furniture, took expensive trips, yet continued claiming money was missing. I pushed the thoughts away, telling myself it wasn't my place. But deep down, something felt terribly wrong. The betrayal cut so deep because it came from the 2 people I trusted most in the world, the ones who were supposed to protect me. I distanced myself more and more. I built walls, focused on my career, and tried to create a new life, far from their shadows. But the pain followed me. Every time I achieved something good, a little voice whispered that it didn't matter. My parents still saw me as a thief. The person who stole from her own blood. Then came the call about Mom's illness, cancer, advanced, hospice care. My heart broke all over again. Despite everything, I rushed to her side. Dad looked older, frailer. For a moment, I hoped this crisis might bring us together. that maybe they would finally see me for who I really was. In the hospice room, the air was heavy with the scent of antiseptic and fading flowers. Mom was weak but still sharp in moments. She held my hand sometimes, though her eyes carried years of unspoken judgment. One afternoon, when Dad left the room, she motioned for my phone. "Record this for me, sweetheart," she said softly. "I want the family to hear my final thoughts." I pressed record, tears already forming. I expected regrets about our broken relationship, maybe even a quiet apology. Instead, as she spoke, my world began to crack open in ways I never imagined. Her voice trembled, but the words were clear. She confessed everything. How they had been struggling financially for years. How pride had stopped them from admitting it. How it was easier to blame me than face their own mistakes. How some of the missing items had been sold quietly to cover debts. I sat there frozen, the phone still recording, my heart pounding so loud I could barely hear her. The woman who had accused me for half a decade was finally telling the truth. But only because she thought she might not wake up tomorrow. The betrayal felt fresh all over again. How could they let me suffer for so long? I didn't confront her that day. I simply listened, tears streaming down my face, as the recording captured every painful detail. When Dad returned, I excused myself, my hands shaking. In the hallway, I listened to the full audio. It was all there. The lies, the cover-up, the years of pain they had caused me to protect their pride. I made copies. I sent the recording to my closest relatives first, with a simple message. This is what really happened. The reactions came quickly. Shock, disbelief, then anger on my behalf. Family members who had distanced themselves reached out with apologies. The narrative began to shift. Dad found out when an uncle called him. The confrontation was quiet but devastating. In Mom's final days, the truth hung heavy in that hospice room. She passed away knowing her secret was out. Dad tried to downplay it at first, but the recording was undeniable. He eventually admitted the financial troubles and how they had let the blame fall on me rather than face reality. The revenge wasn't loud or dramatic. It was the quiet power of truth finally seeing the light. My name was cleared. Old friends and relatives who had believed the worst reached out. I didn't gloat. I simply stood taller, no longer carrying the weight of their false accusations. In the months that followed, I rebuilt. I started that small business I had always dreamed of. I surrounded myself with people who believed in me. And slowly, Dad and I began to speak again. Carefully, with boundaries. He never fully apologized in the way I deserved, but the recording had forced a new reality. Their story built on lies had ended. Mine was just beginning. Looking back, I realized the deepest betrayal wasn't the accusations themselves. It was the years they stole from our relationship, the trust, the love, the memories we could have made. But I also learned that truth has its own timing. Sometimes justice comes not through anger, but through a single voice speaking clearly at the end. If there's one thing I want you to take from my story, it's this: never let someone else's lies define who you are. Hold on to your truth even when the world doubts you. The light always finds a way to expose the darkness. And when it does, you'll finally be free to live the life you were always meant to have. Unbroken, unshamed, and whole. I'm Elena, and this is how one recording from a hospice bed gave me back my life. Word count, approximately 1/380.